Today we're going to make some jerky. We're going to use a raw cut of beef. I've chosen a beef joint. I tried to choose the one with the least amount of fat on it. The first step, what we're going to do is remove what remains of the fat, because fat does not dehydrate very well. So we're just going to take off any of the fat. Small little flecks of fat aren't necessarily a big problem, but if we can take the majority of it off. So there you go, look, we've got quite a solid fat-free piece of meat there. I've just noticed a bit there. I'm going to take that off as well. There you go, happy with that. Right, so that's the fat removed from the joint. And a good way to make it easier to slice this nice and thin is just to put this into the freezer until it's firm enough to slice easy, because at the moment obviously it's very soft. So we'll go on and get that in the freezer, and while we're doing that we'll make up the marinade. So I'm following a recipe from the Beginner's Guide to Dehydrating Food. I'm following the guidelines because I've never made jerky before, but myself and my son eat a lot of jerky, so I'm wondering if this could be a more economical way of making it. And I'm going for the Sportsman's marinade for a red meat jerky. I'll put the link for the book via Amazon in the description. Going to make it in a tub so that it can sit in the tub for a little bit of time. So we need 1/3 of a cup of Worcester sauce, 1/3 of a cup of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of honey or maple syrup. I'm using maple syrup because I prefer the flavour. That's the last of mine, so I'm just going to get every last bit out. 2 tablespoons of ketchup. Now this is optional. You can add 1 teaspoon of liquid smoke. I picked this one up off of Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. Just couldn't really find it in any shops locally. So 1 teaspoon of liquid smoke. So 1 teaspoon of liquid smoke, just to give it that extra smoky flavour. 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of coarsely ground black pepper. Just going to go ahead and guess that one. And then we want to get our garlic and mince it down. Add the garlic to the mix. Give that whole mixture a good mix. Put that aside and take a look at the beef. Beef has been in the freezer for a little bit. I only needed it to go a little bit firmer so it's a bit easier to handle. And then we're just going to slice it as thin as we can. There is a small amount of fat on it, but I think we've done a pretty good job of removing most of it. I'm going to weigh this at the end as well, because I've got a rough guide to how much it costs us to buy our own beef jerky, and I want to do a comparison to the cost of making our own. Just trying to make sure that I slice this nice and thin, because the thinner it is, the less time it's going to take to dehydrate. So we've got 400 grams of the beef. The beef joint I got from Asda's came in at £5.99. Right, let's get that into the marinade, and then I can nip to the shop while I let it marinate, and then we'll get back and we'll get it into the dehydrator. So I'm just going to put them in individually because I want them all to get covered. Make sure both sides get fully marinated. It's got a lovely smoky smell to it already. Leave that to soak in the marinade. Right, let's take a look at the beef that's been marinating. It's been about an hour now, so the beef's taken on a lot of that flavour. I'm going to try and save one shelf at the top and the bottom on my dehydrator, because that's meant to aid in the airflow. Lay these beef strips out. Yeah, so I'm thinking I might actually slice these down into strips, because they are quite large, aren't they? This is the first time I'm dehydrating something other than fruits or vegetables, so it'd be interesting to see how this turns out. Get another tray on the go. Going to continue on until I've got all the beef laid out. Ended up with 4 trays of the beef. I've kept it quite well spread out. I've left quite a lot of the flavour on there, because I'm hoping that's going to dry into the meat. Let me just put the lid on. Right, over to the dehydrator. Now we're going to set it on a high temperature, and we're going to run it for initially 4.5 hours. Check on it, see how well it's doing, and then add more time if needed. About halfway through, so about 2 hours in, I'm going to change the trays. So I'm going to move the top to the bottom, vice versa, just in case there's pockets where the airflow is better. So the jerky's been in for 5 hours. I checked on it at 2.5 hours. It needed a bit longer, and then I checked it about half an hour ago. And it had some soft meat in the middle. So I checked it, I've torn it apart a little bit, and now we've got some toughened, but it's still got a little bit of give to it. There we go. A piece of this hot. That's incredible. That's got a really nice flavour. I'm just going to take my time to put it all into a tub, because I just want to make sure that as I'm checking it, I'm making sure there's no bits which aren't fully dehydrated, specifically like the bigger pieces. There we go, there's all of the beef jerky. Slightly bigger pieces than you get in your shop bought packs. Let's check the dried weight for the jerky. I've tried a few bits, tasted a few bits, so we'll account for that. So I'd say this is dried down to 200 grams of jerky. I'd argue that you probably only saved a few quid by doing it yourself. You know that what ingredients have been put into this, you know the cut of meat, you have a better understanding of where the beef's come from and how it's been made and preserved. I'm going to need a bigger jar. I've roughly worked it out based on some shop bought beef jerky, and the value for saving is around about £3 to £4. But I'd argue there's a bigger reason and a better reason for making your own. You know where the meat's been sourced and the quality of the meat. You know the ingredients which have gone into it. You know that you haven't put any extra preservatives in there. It's probably the healthiest and the freshest beef jerky you can make yourself. You have control over how long the jerky itself is in the dehydrator. I personally don't think it was a very tricky thing to make. I actually found it quite easy. Really pleased with how that beef jerky's turned out. First time dehydrating anything meat-based. It's got a lovely flavour. There's a few other marinades I want to try from that book. Like I said, I'll share the book in the description if you want to see a link to it from Amazon. But so far we've done quite well with our dehydrating. We've got the shallots from the allotment, the strawberries, raspberries and apples, although they have been eaten quite a bit by Shire. The beef jerky, which when he gets home from school, I'm sure he's going to absolutely demolish, because he's always buying beef jerky for the protein. Our mushrooms, and then our chili and pepper mix. I hope you found that interesting. Plenty more dehydrating experiments to come. I also share some of my dehydrating adventures on the allotment updates every Sunday. Thanks for watching, and I'll hopefully see you in a future video. Bye bye.